They say you never know the exact moment when your life begins to crack, when the invisible lines holding your world together start to tremble. For me, it happened quietly, without any warning, on an ordinary day in a life I thought was safe and steady. Looking back now, I can almost taste the irony. I used to believe my story with Daniel was unshakable, something written in stone. I was wrong. My name is Rachel, and for the longest time I thought I had found what every woman hopes for: love, trust, and a future built side by side. Daniel wasn't perfect, but he was mine. He had this boyish smile that disarmed me every time he walked through the door, and even when I was furious with him for leaving his shoes in the middle of the living room or forgetting to call when he was late, I couldn't stay mad for long. His laughter echoed in my small apartment. His scent lingered in my sheets, and his presence became as natural to me as breathing. We had been together for almost 3 years, and in those years I had built a story in my mind. A story where we would get married, buy a little house, maybe raise children who had his dark eyes and his mischievous smile. Every holiday, every plan, every dream was wrapped around the idea of us. It was my safe place, my certainty in a world that so often feels unstable. I thought I knew him. I thought I could read him better than anyone else. I believed that when he told me he loved me, those words carried the same weight for him as they did for me. Love, for me, wasn't casual. It wasn't just a word thrown in the air to fill silence. It was sacred. And because I believed in him, because I trusted him, I never imagined I would one day question everything. Our evenings had their own rhythm. Daniel would stop by my place after work, tired but always with that spark in his eyes, as if seeing me was enough to erase his day. We'd eat together, sometimes cook, sometimes order takeout when neither of us felt like touching a pan. Then we'd sit on the couch, my head on his chest, watching shows, or simply talking about nothing. I felt safe in those moments, like life couldn't hurt me as long as I was wrapped in his arms. My friends used to tease me, saying I was too protective, that I kept a close eye on him, especially on social media. They laughed when I admitted I liked checking his Facebook page, scrolling through his posts, and even glancing at his friend list. To me, it wasn't about distrust, it was about curiosity. I wanted to know every corner of his world, every person connected to him. He used to shrug and call me a little jealous, but he would laugh and kiss my forehead, as if my possessiveness was almost endearing. And maybe it was. At least then, before I had any reason to fear. If I close my eyes, I can still recall the way I used to think of our love, like a quiet river, steady and deep. I never believed a storm could come without warning, tearing everything apart. But storms don't always announce themselves with thunder. Sometimes they creep in silently, disguised as ordinary days, hidden behind routine smiles and promises. That's where my story begins, in the calm before the storm, in the illusion of certainty. I wish I could go back to that Rachel, the woman who believed in forever, who thought her love was unbreakable, who trusted too blindly. I envy her innocence. I pity her too, because she had no idea what was waiting just around the corner. It was all so ordinary. The quiet moments, the shared laughter, the trust I thought was mutual. My heart was open, unguarded, certain that I was safe. But I wasn't. I just didn't know it yet. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day when nothing extraordinary should happen. I remember sitting in front of my computer, sipping a lukewarm cup of coffee, scrolling without much purpose. I wasn't looking for trouble. I wasn't expecting to find anything. And yet there it was, one line, glowing on the screen like a knife pressed against my chest. "Hey cutie, what are you doing tonight? Call me if you're free." Those words didn't belong there. They didn't belong to us. They were an intruder in the little world I thought Daniel and I had built. Words that carried a dangerous intimacy, as if whispered behind my back. At first, I froze. My eyes locked on the message, reading it once, then again, as if repetition might change the meaning. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But no matter how many times I read it, the words didn't change. They were playful, teasing, shamelessly suggestive. And they were addressed to my boyfriend. I felt a rush of heat crawl up my neck, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. My stomach tightened, a sickening knot forming as if the floor had just collapsed beneath me. I whispered the words out loud. "Hey, cutie, what are you doing tonight?" And my voice broke halfway, trembling, fragile. Her name was Jessica. I didn't know her face, at least not until I clicked. Blonde, smiling. The kind of woman who looked like she belonged in glossy magazines, not on Daniel's friend list. Yet there she was, her photo staring back at me with that confident glow. A stranger, and yet suddenly she felt like the most threatening person in my life. I sat there for minutes, 10, maybe 20, just staring, as if the message would somehow erase itself if I stayed still long enough. My mind spiraled through 1,000 explanations. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she was joking. Maybe Daniel didn't even notice it. But another voice, darker and sharper, whispered inside me. Or maybe this is exactly what it looks like. Maybe this is the truth you've been too blind to see. The doubt was venomous. It spread through me with every passing second, turning my hands cold and my thoughts chaotic. My first instinct was denial. "It's nothing," I told myself, trying to calm the storm inside. But no matter how I tried to soften the edges of that message, it cut deeper each time I looked at it. And then came the anger. A wave so sudden and violent, it made my hands shake. What kind of intimacy was this? What kind of relationship did Jessica think she had with my boyfriend that allowed her to call him cutie in public, on a page where I could see it? Who was she to step into my life like that? I scrolled through Daniel's profile, scanning for more signs, comments, likes, anything that might reveal a hidden truth. My chest burned with every click. And there it was, her name among his recently added friends. Recently, as if she had slipped into his world just yesterday, and I had been too naive to notice. The realization hit me like a punch. My hands hovered over the mouse, trembling, as tears blurred my vision. I wasn't the type to cry easily, but in that moment, the betrayal I felt, even if it wasn't yet proven, was enough to make my heart crack. I whispered his name under my breath. Daniel. Saying it out loud felt like betrayal too, because the name that once gave me comfort now felt tainted. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call him immediately, to demand an explanation, to tear apart the silence with my rage. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, paralyzed, watching that one line of text haunt me. And the worst part? Deep down, a part of me already knew. Maybe not the full story, maybe not the details, but something inside me recognized that this wasn't innocent. This was a shadow creeping into the life I thought was safe. That night, I would replay those words over and over in my head, like a curse I couldn't lift. "Hey, cutie, what are you doing tonight? Call me if you're free." It was just a message, just a handful of words. But sometimes, a single sentence is enough to destroy everything you thought was unbreakable. I wish I could say I saw that message once and then moved on, that I tucked it into some corner of my mind and decided not to give it power. But the truth is, from the moment my eyes landed on those words, they clung to me like poison in my veins. I read it again, and again, 10 times, 20. I whispered it under my breath as if repeating it would somehow drain its meaning. But each repetition only made it heavier, more unbearable. "Hey, cutie, what are you doing tonight? Call me if you're free." It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. Casual, intimate, shameless. As though she knew she had the right to speak to him that way, as though she already belonged somewhere she didn't. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Jessica was just one of those girls who flirted with everyone, the kind who left careless comments without realizing the damage they caused. Maybe Daniel hadn't even responded. Maybe he didn't even notice it. But the word cutie burned. It wasn't a neutral word. It wasn't the kind of thing you called a stranger or even just a friend. It belonged to lovers, or at least to people trying to cross that line. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling as though the answer might fall from above. My chest rose and fell in shallow, erratic breaths. I felt dizzy, like the room had shrunk around me, trapping me in a cage of suspicion. The questions began, one after another, each one sharper than the last. Who is she? Why does she feel comfortable writing this to him? Has he encouraged her? Have they met? Is this the first message or the only one I caught before he deleted the rest? I hated myself for thinking this way. I hated the paranoia clawing through me. But what was I supposed to do? Pretend I hadn't seen it? Pretend it didn't matter? I went back to the screen, my fingers trembling as I clicked through her profile. Her photos were everywhere. Smiles at parties, selfies with perfect lighting, friends commenting with heart emojis. She looked like the kind of woman who never doubted her worth, who expected men to fall at her feet. The kind of woman I had always secretly feared. Bold, careless, radiant. And then I saw it. Her name in Daniel's friend list. Added recently. My chest tightened like a fist had grabbed it and refused to let go. Recently. That single word echoed in my mind like a gunshot. He had chosen to let her in. He had accepted her presence into his world. I wanted to scream, but instead I laughed. A broken, bitter sound that startled even me. Of course, I whispered. Of course she's new. Of course she didn't just appear out of nowhere. Every piece fit together in a way that made too much sense. The message, the friend request, the fact that I had never once heard her name until today. And suddenly, the doubt wasn't just doubt anymore. It was certainty taking root, spreading its dark branches through every memory, every moment we had shared. I replayed scenes of us together, Daniel holding my hand, kissing my forehead, telling me he loved me. I wanted to believe those moments were real, that they still held truth. But now, under the shadow of Jessica's words, even those memories felt tainted. What if, while I was resting my head on his chest, his phone buzzed with her messages? What if, while he swore I was the only one, he was secretly entertaining the thrill of someone new? The thought made me sick. And yet, a cruel irony followed me everywhere. I had no proof, just a message, just a handful of words. Was that enough to condemn him? Was that enough to end everything we had built? I looked at the screen again, my eyes burning. The message was still there, mocking me, daring me to react. My hand hovered over the phone, tempted to call him, to demand an explanation. But fear stopped me, fear that he would deny it, fear that he would laugh it off, fear that I would sound like the paranoid, jealous girlfriend everyone joked I was. The poison of doubt is worse than any truth, because truth, no matter how painful, is solid. You can hold it, you can fight it, you can accept it. But doubt is shapeless. It slips through your fingers, wraps around your thoughts, poisons even your happiest memories. That night, I couldn't eat. I couldn't think of anything else. My mother called to ask if I was coming for dinner, and I lied, saying I was busy. How could I sit at a table and pretend everything was fine when inside I was unraveling? When I finally went to bed, sleep refused to come. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, hearing those words in my head like a mantra I couldn't silence. Hey cutie, what are you doing tonight? Call me if you're free. Each time the phrase repeated in my mind, it cut deeper, leaving me raw and restless. My body was in bed, but my mind was still at that screen, still trapped in the loop of reading, rereading, questioning, doubting. The night felt endless, and by the time the sun rose, I was no closer to peace. If anything, the poison had spread deeper, sinking into places I couldn't reach. That's when I knew. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't keep the storm locked inside me. I would have to confront him. And in that moment, I believed the confrontation would bring me clarity. I had no idea it would only plunge me further into darkness. By the time Daniel showed up at my apartment that evening, I was already trembling with rage and exhaustion. Hours of staring at that message had left me hollowed out, my nerves frayed, my patience gone. When I heard his footsteps on the stairs, a strange mix of longing and fury surged inside me. I had missed him, and yet I was ready to tear him apart. He opened the door with that same careless smile he always carried after work, the one that used to melt me. "Hey, babe," he said, leaning in to kiss me. But I pulled back, my arms crossed over my chest, my eyes sharp as knives. The words slipped from my lips before I even had time to soften them. "Who's Jessica?" The color drained from his face. His smile faltered, and for a split second, I saw it. The flicker of recognition, the panic flashing in his eyes. That single moment told me more than his words ever could. "Jessica?" he repeated too quickly, too nervously. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me, Daniel," I snapped. "The message, on your Facebook, from her. Don't you dare pretend you don't know what I'm talking about." He blinked at me, his jaw tightening. "Rachel, I don't know what you think you saw, but there's nothing. Don't you dare lie to me." My voice cracked, trembling with the weight of hours of suspicion. I read it with my own eyes. "Hey, cutie, what are you doing tonight? Call me if you're free." That's what she wrote to you. So tell me, what exactly is going on between you and her? For a moment, silence filled the room. His eyes darted to the floor, then back to me, his lips parting as if searching for the right excuse. "Rachel, it was nothing. She's nobody. Just a friend of a friend. I barely know her." "A friend?" I laughed bitterly, though it sounded more like a sob. "A friend doesn't call you cutie. A friend doesn't ask what you're doing at night. Who are you trying to fool here, Daniel? Because it sure as hell isn't me." He stepped closer, his hands outstretched, as if his touch could erase the truth. "Listen, you're blowing this out of proportion. You always do this. You get jealous. You imagine things. Don't you dare put this on me." My voice rose, sharp enough to cut through his excuses. "This isn't my imagination. It was right there on your page for everyone to see. Or maybe it wasn't for everyone. Maybe it was just for you." And then, my breath caught. "You deleted it, didn't you? You erased it before I could show you." His eyes widened. "What? No. Rachel, I didn't delete anything. I didn't even see a message." "You liar." My whole body shook, my hands clenched at my sides. "You deleted it, Daniel. Don't stand there and insult me by pretending it never happened. I saw it. I know what I saw." The room seemed to shrink around us, the walls closing in with every word. He swore on everything holy, his voice rising in frustration. "I'm telling you the truth. I never erased anything. Maybe she deleted it herself. How should I know?" His excuses only deepened my fury. My heart pounded so violently I thought it might burst. The man standing in front of me, the man I trusted with everything, looked like a stranger. His words sounded hollow, rehearsed, desperate. "Don't you get it?" I said, my voice breaking, softer now, almost pleading. "It's not just about the message. It's about respect, about loyalty, about knowing that I can trust you. And right now, Daniel, I can't." His face twisted, anger and hurt colliding. "Rachel, you're being ridiculous. You're ready to throw away everything we have over some stupid comment from a girl I don't even know. Do you hear yourself?" "Yes," I whispered, my throat tightening. "And maybe that says everything we need to know." The silence that followed was unbearable. We stood there, two strangers wearing the faces of lovers, drowning in accusations and half-truths. He shook his head, muttering under his breath, calling me dramatic, unfair. But I knew what I had seen. No denial, no excuse could erase it. In that moment, something inside me snapped. My anger was too sharp, my pain too raw. I pointed to the door with a trembling hand. "Get out," I said. He stared at me, shocked. "What?" "You heard me. Get out." He hesitated, his lips parting as if to argue, but the fire in my eyes must have told him it was useless. With a curse under his breath, he grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. And just like that, the man I thought I knew, the man I thought I loved beyond doubt, became the man I no longer trusted. The silence after the door slammed was deafening. It wasn't the kind of silence that brings peace. It was heavy, suffocating, the kind that presses against your chest until you can barely breathe. For a few moments, I just stood there, staring at the empty space where Daniel had been, my hands still trembling, my heart pounding like a drum that refused to quiet down. I told myself I had done the right thing. I told myself I had every reason to be angry, that I was justified in throwing him out. But the words felt hollow, like lies I was whispering to myself in the dark. When the rage began to fade, the ache crept in. My knees gave out, and I sank onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. The tears came then, hot, unstoppable, relentless. I hated crying. I hated feeling weak, but I couldn't hold it back. My body shook with sobs that seemed to come from someplace deeper than my chest, someplace I couldn't control. I thought about his face when I confronted him. The way his eyes widened, the way his words stumbled, the way he swore he hadn't done anything wrong. Had I been too harsh? Was it possible, just possible, that he was telling the truth? The questions clawed at me. Maybe Jessica really had deleted the message herself. Maybe it had been some stupid, reckless comment that meant nothing. Maybe Daniel had no part in it at all, and I had just destroyed everything because I couldn't control my jealousy. I remembered my mother's voice, always calling me too fiery, too quick to judge. "Rachel, you're too stubborn. You jump to conclusions before you give people a chance to explain." She had said it so many times over the years, and now her words echoed in my head like a warning I had ignored. Was she right this time? Had I gone too far? The longer I sat there, the heavier the guilt became. The anger that had burned so bright earlier was now nothing but ashes, leaving me cold, empty, and ashamed. My heart ached with the memory of Daniel's eyes, hurt, frustrated, maybe even innocent. And God, what if he had been innocent? What if I had accused him, screamed at him, humiliated him for nothing? I wiped my tears with the back of my hand, but they kept coming. I whispered his name, Daniel, and the sound of it broke me all over again. I wanted him there. I wanted to take back the words I had thrown at him like knives. I wanted to rewind the night, to start over, to handle it differently. The apartment felt too big without him, too quiet, too cold. Every corner reminded me of him. The jacket he'd left draped on a chair, the mug he had used that morning still sitting on the counter, the faint trace of his cologne that lingered in the air. He was everywhere, and yet he was gone. By the time the night settled in, regret was consuming me. I paced the room, debating with myself, rehearsing what I would say if I called him. "I'm sorry. I overreacted. I should have trusted you. Please, let's talk." But when I finally picked up the phone, my hands shaking, it rang and rang until his voicemail answered. My heart sank. I tried again. This time, the call went straight to out of service. Maybe he had turned it off. Maybe he didn't want to hear my voice. The rejection stung, sharp and merciless. Still, I couldn't let it go. I tried again and again, clinging to the hope that he would pick up, that he would give me the chance to explain. But the line stayed dead. I sat there in the dim light of my living room, the phone pressed to my chest, whispering apologies to no one. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I didn't mean it. Please, come back." But the only response was silence. The hours dragged on, each one heavier than the last, and as midnight approached, I knew I couldn't stay there, drowning in guilt. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't wait until tomorrow. I had to see him. I had to look him in the eyes and tell him I was sorry, even if it was too late. So I grabbed my coat, wiped the last of my tears, and stepped into the night. The streets were quiet, the air cold, but my heart was louder than everything around me. I was heading to Daniel's house, desperate to fix what I had broken. What I didn't know was that the worst was yet to come. Daniel lived only a few blocks away, but that night the walk felt endless. The streets were quiet, the air sharp with the bite of cold, and every step echoed like the drum of my own heartbeat. I hugged my coat tighter around me, whispering the words I had rehearsed over and over. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Please forgive me." By the time I reached his house, my nerves were raw. I hesitated at the gate, staring at the warm glow of the porch light. I half expected him to open the door before I even knocked, as if he had been waiting for me too. Instead, it was his mother who answered. "Rachel?" she said, surprised. Her kind eyes softened as she stepped aside. "Daniel isn't home right now. Did you two have a fight?" The guilt in my chest deepened. I nodded, my voice low. We argued. I just wanted to see him, to make things right. Do you mind if I wait inside?" "Of course not, dear. Come in." She welcomed me with the warmth only mothers carry, and for a moment, I felt a strange comfort. We sat at the kitchen table, talking in hushed tones. I admitted we had argued, though I left out the details. She patted my hand gently and said, "He'll be back soon. Don't worry, you two will sort it out." Her reassurance gave me a fragile hope. When she and her husband retired for the night, I asked if I could wait in Daniel's room. She agreed, and soon I found myself standing in the space that had once felt so familiar. The room smelled like him, the bed unmade, his jacket tossed carelessly on the chair, his books scattered across the desk. It was as though his presence lingered in every corner. My chest tightened. For a moment, I allowed myself to sink into the mattress, my fingers brushing the sheets where we had once shared laughter, secrets, and promises whispered in the dark. The minutes stretched, dragging themselves into hours. I turned on the small lamp on his nightstand, then switched it off, letting the shadows swallow the room. I lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the fight. His face when I accused him, his voice swearing he hadn't done anything, his anger, his frustration. What if he had been telling the truth? The thought gnawed at me, twisting deeper with every tick of the clock. What if I had broken something we could never fix? I wanted him to walk through that door so I could throw my arms around him, so I could apologize, so I could beg him to forgive my outburst. The silence was unbearable. Every sound from outside made my heart leap. A car in the distance, footsteps on the sidewalk, even the wind rattling the branches against the window. I kept thinking, this is him. He's finally here. But the minutes passed, and the door stayed closed. By 11 o'clock, my nerves were frayed. I sat on the edge of his bed, wringing my hands, whispering prayers I hadn't spoken in years. Please, God, let him come back. Let him forgive me. Don't let this be the end. I checked my phone, but there were no missed calls, no messages. Only silence. His parents had already gone to bed, the house quiet except for the occasional creak of the floorboards. I felt like a ghost haunting his room, invisible, forgotten. When the clock neared midnight, I stretched out on his bed again, exhaustion finally pulling at me. My eyelids grew heavy, but my heart refused to rest. I kept imagining what I would say when he arrived, rehearsing apologies until they blurred into dreams. And then, just as I began to drift, I heard it. The sound of a car pulling up outside. My heart jumped to my throat. I sat up, listening, holding my breath. Doors closed, footsteps on the driveway, his footsteps. Relief rushed through me so strongly, it almost knocked me over. I smoothed my hair, wiped the tears from my face, and lay back down quickly, covering myself with the blanket. I wanted to surprise him, to see the look on his face when he opened the door and found me waiting. I imagined his smile softening, his anger melting away, his arms wrapping around me in forgiveness. The footsteps grew louder, moving down the hallway. My pulse thundered in my ears. This was it, the moment we would mend what had broken. But I had no idea that what walked through that door would not heal me. It would shatter me in ways I could never have imagined. The footsteps stopped outside the door. My heart raced so fast, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I pulled the blanket up to my chin, holding my breath like a child hiding in a game of make-believe. Any second now, Daniel would push the door open, and I'd see his face light up with surprise, maybe even joy. The doorknob turned. The door creaked open. But what entered wasn't the soft light of forgiveness. It was a shadow darker than anything I had ever known. At first, I saw only outlines, blurred by the dim light from the hallway. 2 figures, not one. I froze, confused, my mind struggling to catch up with what my eyes were showing me. And then I heard his voice, low, urgent, almost playful. "Shh, don't make any noise. My mom might wake up." My stomach dropped. My blood turned to ice. The light flicked on, and in that moment, my entire world collapsed. Daniel stood in the doorway, his arm wrapped tightly around a woman's waist. Blonde hair, bright smile, the same face I had stared at on Facebook only hours before. Jessica. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, trapped in some twisted nightmare. But no, this was real. Too real. My body went numb, but my chest burned with a fire so fierce it threatened to consume me. Daniel's eyes widened when he saw me lying in his bed. Shock, disbelief, terror. He looked like he had seen a ghost. "Rachel!" His voice cracked, strangled, as though my name itself had turned to poison in his mouth. "What the hell are you doing here?" What was I doing here? The question was absurd. I wanted to scream, "This is my place too. This is where we loved, where we dreamed. And now you've dragged her into it?" I didn't answer. My body moved before my mind caught up. I ripped the blanket off, leapt from the bed, and in an instant, I was on her. I grabbed Jessica by the hair, pulling so hard she screamed. My nails raked across her face, desperate to leave marks, desperate to make her feel even a fraction of the agony ripping through me. She clawed back, shrieking, but I didn't stop. My screams mixed with hers, wild, animalistic, unrecognizable even to myself. Daniel tried to pull me off her, shouting my name, begging me to stop, but his voice only fueled the rage. The man I loved, the man I trusted, was standing there holding the woman who had destroyed everything. And still, he tried to protect her. "Get off her!" he shouted, his hands grabbing my arms. "She's not the one who doesn't belong here," I spat, my voice breaking, raw with fury. "It's you! You!" I don't remember everything that happened next. It was chaos, a blur of screams, tears, curses. I heard footsteps pounding down the hallway, his parents rushing in to separate us, his mother's horrified gasp. His father pulling me away, holding my arms as I kicked and sobbed, my body shaking uncontrollably. I don't remember leaving the house. I don't remember how I got home. One moment I was screaming in his room, the next I was stumbling through my front door, empty and broken. It was as if I had blacked out, my body moving on instinct, my mind too shattered to function. What I do remember, what I can never forget, is the look on his face when the light revealed me. His shock, his guilt, his shame. The way his mouth opened, but no excuse, no apology, no explanation came out. He was caught, and still, a part of me had wanted him to fight for me, to drop her, to run to me, to beg for forgiveness, to swear that it wasn't what it looked like. But he didn't. He just stood there, frozen, guilty. That silence said everything. When I finally collapsed on my own bed that night, my body ached as though I had been beaten. My throat was raw from screaming. My hands still stung from clawing at her skin. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the gaping wound inside me. I had loved him with everything I had. I had trusted him more than anyone in this world. And in return, he had brought her into our sacred space, into the bed where we had once whispered about forever. That night, something inside me died. Not just love, not just trust, but a piece of myself I would never get back. The morning after felt like waking up from a car crash. My body was intact, but everything inside me was wrecked, bruised, bleeding. I opened my eyes in my own bed, but it didn't feel like my room anymore. The world itself seemed foreign, unfamiliar, like I had crossed into some darker version of reality. I tried to tell myself it had been a nightmare, that if I reached for my phone, if I scrolled through my messages, life would return to the way it was yesterday. But there was no waking from this. It had happened. I had seen it with my own eyes, Daniel's arms around her, his lips whispering for silence, his guilt when he realized I was there. No dream could ever cut this deep. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of the night before, the way my chest had exploded with rage, the screams, the look on his parents' faces when they found me clawing at Jessica, the shame that burned through me even as my fury consumed me. But above all, it was his face that haunted me. Daniel, frozen in the doorway, caught, guilty, exposed. He hadn't even tried to lie. He hadn't tried to fight for me. He just stood there, paralyzed, while everything we had built collapsed around us. That was the moment I knew, whatever we had, it was over. People say love can survive anything, but they're wrong. Love cannot survive betrayal. It cannot survive lies, secrets, the kind of cowardice that looks you in the eye and swears you're the only one, while sneaking someone else into the bed where you once dreamed of forever. I tried to imagine forgiving him, but every scenario ended the same way. How could I ever look at him again without seeing her? How could I ever believe another word he said without hearing that whisper in my head? Shh, don't wake my mom. The truth is, once trust is broken, there's no glue strong enough to piece it back together. You can pretend, you can try to patch over the cracks, but the fracture is always there, waiting to split open again. He texted me the next day. A single message, "Please, let me explain." I stared at the screen for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. What was there to explain? I had seen enough. Words couldn't erase the image burned into my mind. Words couldn't take away the smell of her perfume clinging to his shirt, the way his arm had fit so naturally around her waist, as if it belonged there. I didn't reply. Later, he showed up at my door. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I sat on the floor with my back against the wood, listening to him plead, his voice muffled, desperate. "Rachel, please, just hear me out. It wasn't what it looked like. Please, baby, don't shut me out." Every word cut deeper, because I knew he still thought he could twist the story, spin it into something less damning. But there was no version of that night that would ever make sense. No excuse that would ever soften the betrayal. Eventually, his voice faded. The footsteps retreated. The silence returned. I buried my face in my knees and cried until my body was empty. That night, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't go back, not this time. Because going back would mean accepting less than I deserved. It would mean letting him destroy me piece by piece. And I refused. I had loved him with everything in me. I had been loyal, faithful, devoted. And he had thrown it all away for one night of carelessness, one reckless moment of weakness. Maybe he thought I would forgive him. Maybe he thought I would swallow the lies, cover the wounds, and pretend nothing had happened. But he didn't understand. Something inside me had changed forever. The Rachel who believed in him, who trusted him blindly, who built her dreams around his promises, she was gone. What remained was broken, yes. Wounded, yes. But stronger too. Because love without respect isn't love. And I refused to carry the weight of his betrayal any longer. It has been weeks now, and still the wound feels fresh, raw, as if it happened only yesterday. Some mornings I wake up, and for one split second, I forget. For one split second, I reach for my phone, expecting his good morning text. For one split second, I still believe in us. And then the memory floods back, sharp and merciless. The doorway, the whisper, her face, his silence. And I remember that the man I loved, the man I trusted with every part of me, chose betrayal over honesty, chose cowardice over love. I've tried to make sense of it, but the truth is, there is no sense to be made. Why do people betray those who love them most? Why does someone look you in the eyes, swear you're their everything, and then sneak behind your back with someone else? Maybe there's no answer. Maybe it's just weakness. Maybe some people don't know how to recognize the treasure they hold until it slips through their fingers. Daniel has tried to reach me since that night. Messages I don't answer, calls I don't pick up. He even came to my door again, his voice shaking as he begged for forgiveness. He told me he only did what he did because we fought, because I pushed him away. As if betrayal could ever be justified. As if one argument gave him the right to break everything we had built. But here's what he doesn't understand. Love isn't fragile. Love isn't meant to shatter at the first sign of conflict. Real love fights. Real love endures. Real love holds on even when it's hard. What he gave me wasn't love. It was a lie wrapped in sweet words. A promise too weak to survive temptation. I know people will say I should let it go, that clinging to the pain only hurts me more. And maybe they're right. But the truth is, the pain is all I have left of what we were. It's the scar that proves I loved with everything I had. Because I did love him. More than I should have. More than he deserved. I loved him with a loyalty so fierce it blinded me. And even now, even knowing what he did, part of me still loves him. That's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't kill love immediately. It lets it linger, bleeding slowly until it hurts to even breathe. But love without trust is nothing. And trust, once broken, can never truly be repaired. So I made my choice. I cut him out. I deleted his number. I erased him from my social media. I shut the door that I once would have opened 1,000 times without hesitation. Because if I didn't, I knew I would weaken. I knew I would let him back in, and I would lose myself in the cycle of lies again. No matter how much it hurts, I know this is the only way. Sometimes at night, I lie awake imagining the future we once dreamed of. Holidays spent together, trips to the beach, a home filled with laughter and maybe children one day. I grieve those dreams as if they were people I lost. They were real to me. They lived in me. And now they're gone. But I also know this. One day, the pain will fade. One day, my heart will learn to beat for itself again. And maybe, just maybe, I will find someone worthy of the love I have to give. Someone who understands that loyalty isn't optional, that respect is not negotiable. As for Daniel, I don't know what his future holds. Maybe he'll find someone else. Maybe he'll make the same mistakes again. Or maybe, late at night, when the silence is too heavy, he'll think of me. He'll remember my laughter, my devotion, the way I loved him with everything I had. And he'll realize that what he lost was irreplaceable. Because one day, he might love another woman. But he will never again be loved the way I loved him. And that is the price of cowardice. Betrayal leaves scars, but sharing our stories helps us heal. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, have you ever faced a betrayal that changed you forever? Your voice matters here.